you will be well on your way to impress your peers and managers with your ability to handle complicated product development. Hello everyone, this is Han here, bringing to you some tips on deep tech product development. I have been working in deep tech R&D product development over the last 5 years in early and late stage startups. And looking back, there are so many mistakes that I have made along the way. Here are the top 6 things that I wish I had known when I first started out on this journey, so I wouldn't waste a lot of unnecessary money, time, and resources on product development. At the end of the video, I would also provide an answer to the question of what is the main difference between R&D in the academic world versus R&D in corporate business settings. This question was asked to me by one of my R&D engineer about a year and a half ago, and the answer to this question is extremely crucial for project managers, product managers, because it sets the correct tone for the R&D product development team. All right, item number 1. Avoid over-reliance on product and project management techniques that are tailor-made for software products. We now live in a world that is filled with resources online and from books that are screaming about concepts like Agile, Scrum, A/B testing, Wizard of Oz, and concierge approaches for project and product management. These are really popular concepts and they are actually very useful for software and application development, but they are also unfortunately tried and failed approaches for deep tech product development. Deep tech is a beast in its own league, and it is characterized by the fact that the technology itself is filled with high level of uncertainties. Therefore, it is impossible to use story points or sprint cycles to determine the duration of deep tech product development. And it's not just that, because how can you let the market experience high definition TV screens before the HD technology is even developed? Or if we look at another example, how can we try to let the market users experience extremely high throughput DNA sequencing technology before this technology is even developed? So while I think it is still helpful to read up on resources attending to project and product management techniques, it is also necessary to keep in mind that deep tech is still a relatively new field, and so a lot of the resources that are available out there might not be the best fit solution for problems faced in deep tech product development. The approach that I would recommend is to spend a little bit of time thinking about how a particular concept might be useful and applicable for the product that you are developing. However, if the answer to the question proves to be elusive after a little bit of brainstorming, be open to the possibility that the problem is not with you not being able to find the right solution, but rather with the fact that you are trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. In a separate video, I talk about the popular resources that are available out there and how the materials that they provide can be useful or not useful for deep tech product development. All right, item number 2. Avoid asking a lot of wrong whys. This is a controversial point, but to fervent opposition of this, hold your horses and listen to what I have to say about it. In deep tech R&D product development, the development team is generally made up of people who ask whys very often, and most of the questions are very technical in nature. It is alright to ask why, and in this current society, most of you out there are probably accustomed to an environment of openly asking questions. The act of asking questions is actually quite harmless, and in fact, a positive, open, and dynamic development team should have an environment where openly asking question, is acceptable. It is actually the decisions that are made on whether or not to act on the questions that are being asked that can be quite detrimental. Consider this situation. The project development team is faced with an obstacle along the critical path. And so during a brainstorming session, multiple questions were being asked, and as a result, multiple new tasks were allocated. Next, Consider this situation that happens 2 months down the road. The obstacle along critical path has been resolved, and the implemented changes has delivered good and reliable performance. However, there are still uncertainties around why the implemented changes actually work the way they work, even though there are some leading hypotheses. So further tasks are allocated to look into the scientific mechanism of action. In the first situation, asking the question why is used to solve problems. In the second situation, the question why is used to embark on a new scientific curiosity driven endeavor. Pursuing an answer to the second why question doesn't actually bring justifiable value to the product. Therefore, it is actually a waste of resources. All right, number 3. Avoid jump the gun initiatives. A lot of times in R&D projects and project teams, there's an air of optimism and enthusiasm. Because the most exciting thing that can happen to an R&D team, short of the product actually making it to the market and being extremely successful and making multi-million dollars, is to have a fully workable prototype or final product that actually check all the boxes. This leads to the tendency to assemble everything together and only test out the product after full integration of the final product. Never ever do that. Not only is that bad engineering practice, deep tech products are also so complicated that trying to jump the gun and get to the finish line as quickly as possible always leads to failure. When that failure happens, the natural tendency is to troubleshoot and find the root cause of the problem. But because intermediate modules are not validated, it is impossible to run that troubleshooting. Therefore, for deep tech, always break up the product into smaller pieces and validate each piece individually. Only assemble those pieces together one at a time after they have been validated. This might make product development a little bit more boring, but it helps a lot with troubleshooting, and it also reduces the time to product success. The next 3 items are more like tools to implement during product development. But if you like the content so far, please help to like, subscribe, and feel free to leave a comment. Okay, moving on to item number 4, implementing statistical tools. I paid my dues to the manufacturing world when I initially started my career at Intel in semiconductor fabrication. Statistical process control is a big thing in the world of manufacturing, production, and it is the backbone of Six Sigma. When I left fabrication and went into the world of R&D product development, I thought I had left statistics behind. When people think about manufacturing and fabrication, one of the first few things that they think about will be statistics. But in most cases, when people think about R&D, they tend to jump straight into the nitty-gritty detail of the technology, and statistics isn't even one of the top 10 things that comes to mind. So I thought that statistics is irrelevant for R&D, but I had to learn it the hard way about how wrong I was. There are so many ways statistics can be applied to R&D to expedite the product to market cycle. Nowadays, when I lead R&D projects, I make sure that the engineers and scientists across all disciplines are aware of statistical concepts. Statistics can be applied to make a decision between multiple different options by having good statistical experimental design and using tools like ANOVA and t-test. Statistics can also be used to analyze data, especially noisy data that comes with wild variations because a lot of the parameters during R&D are still not properly controlled. In addition, statistics can also be used to set acceptance criteria and to formalize goals. In a lot of R&D product development, we want the product to hit XYZ requirements. But what actually constitute hitting XYZ requirement? Does it mean that the product has to hit the requirement once, twice? Does it mean that one failure in 10 successful cases is good enough or bad enough? If the objectives or the acceptance criteria are set with statistical confidence level, this can make sure that the product development is done rigorously enough, but it wouldn't drag on and become endless. The entire field of regression analysis is also extremely important to help anticipate response and find correlations between various parameters. I would release another video on practical ways to apply statistical concepts into R&D product development. All right, item number 5, implementing an R&D governance system. Deep tech R&D product development generally takes anywhere from half a year to 3-4 years for complete development. Keeping this fact in mind, teams should ask themselves these questions from day one. The first question is, how would I track product development progress over time? The next question is, how can I stay aware of all the actions and outcome that happen during product development without making the entire process too burdensome? The final question is, how can I understand or justify the impact of a work that was performed 6 months ago, a year ago, 2, 3 years ago? So the key idea here is to find a way to chain up all the different events that happen over time and draw meaningful conclusions from them. R&D project governance system should be a standardized way established within the team to make sense of all the project artifacts that are generated during product development. And this includes not just hardcore results like experimental design and experimental data, but it also includes processes, delays, obstacles that were faced, decisions making, and so on. We might all think of R&D as a laissez-faire process, but it is actually vital to establish this governance system no more than 3 months into product development to make sure that all the data and decision making do not spiral out of control. All right, moving on to the last item, and that is to establish an action kickoff checklist. R&D product development can be hampered by both over-enthusiastic actions and overly cautious inactions. The dynamic of the team that you lead is most likely one that is composed of a group of people who are more than ready to get the job started without any kind of plan. And on the other side, a group of people who are extremely cautious and they want to make sure that all the steps are planned out well in advance, including all the contingencies, before making the first move. The former generally leaves behind a trail of unfinished and failed works, while the latter leads to massive delays. Everyone exists somewhere between this action-inaction spectrum, but within the team, everyone should moderate their behavior towards the middle. And the way to do that is to have an action kickoff checklist. This checklist should be established early during the R&D product development phase, and it includes a predefined list of requirements. If the requirements are met, then the action is sufficiently planned and it can be executed and it should be executed. Important requirements that I generally include in the checklist are measurability of outcome, success criteria, some kind of basis for action or hypothesis, and the materials or support or resources that are needed. Overly enthusiastic members will have to gain approval for their actions through the checklist, while people who are overly cautious will have to execute if they are given an approved checklist. All right, now going back to the question that was asked at the very beginning of the video, what is the key difference between R&D in an academic setting versus R&D in a business corporate setting? In the academic world, R&D values are generated through discoveries. In the business world, R&D values are awarded by market affirmations through the value chain. If you remain laser focused on fulfilling market value proposition, avoid the three things that I mentioned above, and adopt the three tools that are recommended, you will be well on your way to impress your peers and managers with your ability to handle complicated product development.